Star Wars Episode 6 Return of the Jedi is the next installment in the retrospective series we are covering right now, and we're going to look back at the movie that ended the Star Wars saga. So we thought, until we obviously got the sequels, but this was the finishing product of the original trilogy that George Lucas created. So I'm going to tell you guys my thoughts. Has my views changed on Return of the Jedi? Where would I rank it? That's what we're going to discuss. Let me know down in the comments below, what did you guys all think of this movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Smash it down there. Smash that like button and click subscribe as well. And let's get into this deep dive look into Return of the Jedi. So, Return of the Jedi, the third movie in the original trilogy, the one that capped off the actual trilogy itself back in the day, before we even got the prequels, before we even got the sequels. This movie was made way back, like, I think it was, how long ago? Would have been the 80s this was made. So, this was the end point. This was actually the end of the Skywalker saga, even with the prequels. So you can even add the prequels in. This was originally the ending. This was the end of the Skywalker saga. But obviously, when Disney bought the rights, they decided they were going to create the sequels that were going to carry on the Skywalker saga for another generation. So, with this movie, a lot of people either love it or aren't very satisfied with this. For me, Return of the Jedi is just, I really enjoy this film quite a lot. And there are multiple facets to why I enjoy this movie a lot. And especially the ending. I think the ending is probably it's the best way to cap off the actual Anakin Skywalker saga itself with these characters. Obviously, you can carry on with Luke and Han and Leia, but like the original characters from the prequel trilogy, like the Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan, Yoda, like you can move on from them because this is the perfect way to end their story, to end that conflict with Palpatine and Vader. It all comes to a really great conclusion. And I think this movie is actually a really good conclusion. I really do. I know some people don't agree with me, and that's totally fine. I totally get that. But for me, the conclusion to the original trilogy, this was the perfect way to cap it off. So we start off with Darth Vader coming to the Death Star 2, the second one that they're building, the bigger one. It's obviously still incomplete, you can see that. But he goes there, and he sees the Admiral there, and he tells him, hey, mate, you need to get back on schedule here, because that's why I'm here. And he's like, oh, but I need more men than that. He's like, well, guess what, mate? You can tell to the Emperor, because he's on his way here now. So you already know the Emperor's coming in here, and you can just feel from that scene alone that it's building up to this big climactic battle between the rebellion and the Empire. You just feel like, okay, the Emperor's coming onto the Death Star 2. This feels like we're already coming to the conclusion. And then you pan off to Jabba the Hutt, where we're starting to walk through his palace on Tatooine with the droids, with R2 and C-3PO. R2 has a message to deliver to Jabba the Hutt, and he is bargaining for Han Solo's release. Because remember, in Empire, Han Solo was carbon frozen and given to Boba Fett, who took him to Jabba the Hutt, because obviously Han owed Jabba the Hutt a lot of money. So he's up on the wall there. Jabba doesn't want to get rid of him. We see Lando there as well. He's undercover. So this whole entire plan has been planned from the minute that Luke got his hand fixed. Like you could see they were trying to find Jabba the Hutt's palace and that, and they were going to execute this plan. Meanwhile, Luke has been going and training and is now a Jedi Knight. And they all speaking about that, like the message is, I'm a Jedi, like I'm gonna come get you, man. You just might as well bargain with me. So Luke's been training. Obviously, I would say that's been with Yoda and Obi-Wan. They've probably been training together. But he goes and saves Han Solo. That's the whole plan. So we see this bounty hunter come in with Chewbacca, and you're kind of thinking, okay, what's going on here? But obviously, it's Leia underneath the bounty hunter. It's Princess Leia. Like it is pretty easy to predict that. I will say that it is to predict. And so they hand over Chewbacca, and then at night she sneaks in and frees Han from the carbon freezing, and Jabba the Hutt is aware of it, and boom, they capture him, and now she is now prisoner as well. They obviously are going to execute Han. Like that's the whole thing that's about to happen. And then Luke arrives, and he's ready to bargain and be like, yo, Jabba, come on, man. Just let me take him. And it's all done. It's all done. No one has to die here. And then obviously we see Luke get trapped down with I think it's a Raycorn, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that's what the creature is called. It's called a Raycorn. It's something like that. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. But we see him battle that thing, and he does end up killing it. No one survived it. He kills it. Jabba's pissed. So Jabba's like, I'm going to kill every single one of you right here, right now. And Luke warns him, and Luke says, look, man, this is the end for you. Like, you're going to die. And so they go off to the Sarlacc pit, where they're going to throw them down, and they're going to be digested over years and years and years and years, slowly dying. And yeah, it's pretty brutal. And we saw in the Boba Fett series, that is now out on Disney Plus, that Boba Fett actually survived it. And that was one of the big stories of Return of the Jedi, is we had this mysterious character of Boba Fett who gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit in here. Like, there's so much mysterious elements about Boba Fett that makes him so cool. And with the armor, everything like that, we know that he's really cool, and you can see people tremble when they hear his name. But he gets defeated so easily by like this lazy Han Solo accidental hit his jetpack, and he flies into the Sarlacc pit. But we see him survive the Sarlacc pit, and we see just how bad it was and like what it did to him. So you can imagine if you didn't have Beskar armor, what it would actually do to you, and it'd like kill you pretty painfully. So I wouldn't recommend it. So Luke gives him one last warning, comes back up, grabs his lightsaber, and this is the first time we ever got to see a green lightsaber. So that was pretty cool as well, to see this green lightsaber. And then that's when the speculation for us started to begin, like, so is it when you become a Jedi Knight, do you get a green lightsaber and you're blue when you're a Padawan? Like, what is the thing? But we just find out that they are actually, the green is more along the Force knowledge side, and blue is more warrior. That was what it was like in the Old Republic, in the Republic era and stuff like that, the prequel era. I'm not 100% sure if that's what George was thinking here or not, or was just like, hey, let's just give him a green one. But it was cool to see a green one. So they all start to like chop them people up, and Luke's trying to save them all. Leia kills Jabba the Hutt, and then they get free. They all get free, and they go off. They go their separate ways. So obviously Luke's going back to Master Yoda to complete his training. He needs to be fully trained in order to face Darth Vader again. And we see him when he lands on Dagobah talking to Master Yoda. And Master Yoda saying, look, man, you've learned everything you need to know to face this now. And this is actually one of the quite sad moments, is because Yoda's telling him that, and Yoda's telling him, like, I'm 900 years old, man. Like, it's time. Like, I'm going to go have a long nap, and I'm not going to wake up from it. Like, Master Yoda is ready to go. Like, he can rest easy now, knowing that Luke is there, trained and ready to face Darth Vader and to crush the Empire and to crush the Sith once and for all. And Yoda can rest at peace now. He can do that. And you see Luke trying to tell him, no, man, you've got to teach me more. Like, I need to know. And this is where Luke does ask Yoda, like, is Vader my father? And he's like, I need to know. And then Yoda's like, yes, he is. So Luke's been internally battling, like, is this 100% true or not? And now he knows officially that it is his father. And then he discovers what's going to happen next. Like, I can't kill my father. So when Yoda passes and dies, Obi-Wan appears, and then Luke's talking to him as well, like, why didn't you tell me? And this is where we get that beautiful scene from Obi-Wan where he's like, well, I told you the truth from a certain point of view. Darth Vader did kill your father and seduce him. So technically, I'm right. And that's where he starts to give him the point of view speech about, like, you're going to see things from your own point of view. And I love that. And I love Obi-Wan's connection here with Luke, telling him that. And when Luke tells him, like, so Leia's my sister then. And, like, he's like, oh, Obi-Wan's like, you're very good. You're very good. Like, your feelings and that serve you well, but it will also serve the Empire well. So you still have him talking back and forth with Luke, just reassuring Luke, like, don't turn to the dark side. So Luke then ends up leaving and regrouping with the rebellion, and they're now going to go to the moon, the forest moon of Endor, to take out the bunker down there, to stop the shield generator around the Death Star 2 in order to blow it up. So they decide to devise a plan that they're going to go do, and as they're going in, Vader's there, and he can sense that Luke's on the ship coming into the moon. So he lets it go because he's like, okay, let him go down there. The Emperor set the trap. Like, this is Palpatine. I mean, if you guys know the prequels, you know Palpatine is very strategic and sets things in motion before they happen. He's really good at that. So he knows this is all happening. So they all go down there, and this is where we get those stuff of with Endor with the what I call it, Ewoks again. The little Ewoks, the little scavengers that just eat anything, people, you name it. They're not nice. They're not meant to be nice. They're portrayed a bit nice here, but they're not really. They are absolutely cannibalistic monsters. That's what these little teddy bears are. But we get introduced to them. We have this beautiful speeder chase going on with Luke and Leia, and then obviously rendezvousing with them, except Leia gets taken by this little teddy bear looking Ewok guy, and he takes them off, and then obviously they get captured. The other people get captured. Luke, Han, Chewbacca, and C-3PO and R2 get captured, and they get taken, and they're going to be the meal. They are going to be the meal. But the Ewoks believe C-3PO is a god. And I love this whole sequence where C-3PO is the god. Out of all of them, he is the one. And Han's giving it to him. And he's like, oh, it's just an old friend. I love it. Absolutely love it. So Luke tells him, hey, tell him to release us, otherwise you get angry and use your magic. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll do it, but I don't know what's going to happen. So Luke then uses the Force, and that's when they get released. They find out Leia's there. And now he's trying to tell them, C-3PO's telling the Ewoks about this story, about the fighting and Darth Vader and that. Meanwhile, Luke's out talking with Leia, and this is where he reveals to Leia that they're brother and sister, and that Vader is their father. And Leia's like, I always knew this. Like, she just had this feeling that that was always the case. So Luke tells her, this is why I have to go fight Vader. So he goes, and he's going to go turn himself in to fight Vader and the Emperor. Meanwhile, Han comes out, and he thinks that there's something going on with Luke and Leia, and he's starting to question, does she like Luke more than me? And then the Battle of Endor commences. So we have Luke turning himself in, Vader's there, and they have this really beautiful conversation. I love that conversation between Luke and Vader trying to tell Luke, like, come to the dark side, just join me. And Luke telling him, nah, mate, I know deep down you're still Anakin Skywalker. And he's still there. Deep down, you are still struggling internally. And seeing Luke reminds you of your wife. Like, that's really the thing going through Darth Vader's head at this point in time, is he sees Luke and it reminds him of the good times with Padme. And this is all that's left of Padme, is his son. That's all that's left. The last bit of Padme is right there in front of him. Does he want to destroy that? Destroy the final piece that's tied him to the love of his life. It's just so great. And like, this character arc that Darth Vader goes on is just, he's such a tragic character, Darth Vader. And then you add the prequels and you see the rise and fall of Anakin, and it's just so tragic. And the only thing that can possibly save him is Luke. But, so we get the Battle of Endor happening, where that's all happening, the Ewoks and the rebellion fighting the Imperials, the Stormtroopers, the Empire. And it's an all-out brawl. It's just bodies going everywhere, blasters, all stuff happening. So they're trying to penetrate in there, into the bunker to blow it up so they can drop the shield generator, while there's a starfight going on with all the ships as they come in. The Death Star's blowing up, some rebellion ships, and you're like, man, what's going on? Meanwhile, in the Death Star, we have Vader bringing Luke to the Emperor, and this is where the Emperor is trying to use his seducing powers to turn Luke to the dark side, and Luke's not having it. So he says, look, mate, your friends, they're all dead. They're gonna die. And this is what makes Palpatine so good. He's just like, yeah, man, they're all gonna die. And he's just sitting there, he's like, strike me down right now and complete your turn to the dark side. But realistically, he's not really wanting him to strike him down. He's the ultimate, I feel like the ultimate idea for the Emperor is to have Luke by his side. I think that's the ultimate thing, because Vader, remember, is more machine than human at this point. So his force ability isn't as strong as it was going to be because he's lost limbs. So he's unable to use certain techniques and that and reach higher power. Where Luke, on the other hand, has all of his limbs bar one hand. So he is more powerful, higher potential at this point. So he wants to do that. So the whole thing's all going on. And then this beautiful, beautiful scene. I love this scene so much, is when Luke turns, grabs his lightsaber, and goes to strike the Emperor down. Vader steps in and stops it. Now, as a kid, I remember seeing this and going, oh my god, okay, so Vader's protecting the Emperor. But after you listen to Dave Filoni explain this whole situation, it makes so much more sense. Like, Anakin slash Darth Vader didn't step in to save the Emperor. He stepped in to save his son. This is him saving his son. And that's what I love about this fight between Luke and Vader. And this is why this is one of my favorites, is because the narrative behind here. This is Darth Vader saving his son from becoming him. Vader becoming the father figure Luke needs in this moment that he never had. Remember, the fall of Anakin all rested on Qui-Gon Jinn's death. If Qui-Gon Jinn doesn't die, Anakin doesn't turn to Darth Vader. So, in order to save Luke from going down the exact same path that Vader went down, he has to be that Qui-Gon figure for Luke. And if it means having to protect him by fighting him here, he is doing that. And this whole narrative going on with this fight, and then having Luke tap in to dark side ability, to his anger, to his emotion, to fight Darth Vader when Darth Vader says, fine, I'll turn your sister to dark side, and bringing that out, and then you just see the velocity in the strikes that Luke is giving. Luke giving into his feelings, fighting Darth Vader. The Emperor is pleased at this, and then he chops off Vader's hand and realizes and sees the mechanical hand, and then sees his hand and goes, no, I'm not turning down that way. Like, no, I can't. And it's so beautiful. It's just, it is poetic. It's so brilliant. And then Luke throws away the lightsaber. And what I like, Luke tapping into his feelings in that isn't necessarily him going into the dark side, but what it is Luke is the closest to Qui-Gon Jinn as a Jedi as you're gonna get in the Star Wars movies. He is literally, like, you gotta remember, Qui-Gon was like not cutting off everything, but he was ahead of the Jedi. And I feel like Luke is that resemblance of Qui-Gon because he has friends that he cares about. He gives into his feelings here and there. We see him use some dark side abilities like a Force choke or something like that. Like, we see him use the Force and let the Force will him, not do what the Jedi Council wanted to do. So I feel like that is such a good contrast to have Luke be more like Qui-Gon Jinn as a Jedi than a Master Yoda or Obi-Wan who's plays by the rule book. I love that about it. And this moment where the Emperor starts electrocuting Luke's trying to reach out to his father, and you just see, you don't even need to see Anakin's face. You don't need to see it, but you see that he turns back to Anakin. He realizes, no, this man next to me has manipulated me my whole entire life to get me to this point so that I can just be his second hand man, that I can do this, be an evil person, and I'm gonna sit by and let him kill my own flesh and blood. The woman I love died to give birth to this kid that is mine. I'm gonna stand by, and I love it because he then picks up the Emperor, says, no, I'm not taking this anymore, throws him down, and completes his arc as the chosen one and brings balance to the Force. It is absolutely poetic, brilliant, and then Luke takes off his mask as Vader requests because he wants to look at him as Anakin Skywalker one more time with his own eyes, and it's so brilliant. And then the whole Battle of Endor, they get in, they blow up the shield, they go in, Lando goes in and blows up the Death Star. Everyone's dead. Luke comes, burns Darth Vader's body, and then we have the big celebration going on. And I mean, I'm got to give this. The special editions do have their flaws in certain things, but I do like and appreciate that they brought Hayden Christensen back as Anakin for the Force Ghost. Because it makes more sense, because Anakin died looking like that and became Darth Vader. So it would make sense as he comes back to a Jedi and becomes a Force Ghost, he comes back as when he was as a Jedi. So I like that they brought Hayden Christensen back for that. And you have this beautiful moment where Luke sees his father, Obi-Wan, and Master Yoda there as Force Ghosts. It's just absolutely brilliant. I think this tied a perfect bow at the end of the story. I mean, these are my childhood heroes. Like, Luke was the definition of hope throughout the original trilogy, and this symbolized him being that beacon of hope because he brought back Darth Vader from the brink back to the light. Like, he did that. Like, only he could do that. We then see the conclusion of Han and Leia's relationship where Leia finally tells Han, like, I love Luke, but not in that way. I love him because he's my brother. And then you see the realization on Han's face, like, oh oh my god, I don't have to compete. It's beautiful. This is just a beautiful story and a beautiful ending. And we're going to get into the sequels next, and I got a lot to say about the sequels. So we will get into that because, yeah, this is really from the start, episode 1 to episode 6 is just a beautiful story. The rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker, and that's what it is. It's ultimately Anakin's story, and it comes to a conclusion here, and it's a beautiful conclusion as he comes back and becomes what he was meant to be, the chosen one, the one to bring balance to the Force, with the help of his son, Luke Skywalker. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, Mark Hamill was fantastic as Luke Skywalker. Harrison Ford is absolutely fantastic as Han. The late Carrie Fisher was absolutely fantastic as Princess Leia. Billy D. Williams was fantastic as Lando. I mean, there's just so many here that I just absolutely loved. And, I mean, this original trilogy is my favorite trilogy of all time. I love these movies. I love Return of the Jedi. It's up there in my top 3 best Star Wars films. I love it. It's just, I think it's a perfect conclusion for me. So, let me know in the comments below, what did you guys think of Return of the Jedi? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Smash it down in that comment section below. Smash that like button. Click subscribe. And I'll see you guys next video. Until then, stay safe. Peace out.